So welcome and good morning, or good afternoon now. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I hope for most of you, if not all, this is your sort of second instalment of this Global Sports Leeds Beckett webinar sessions to sort of help kickstart your career in sport. If it's your first, welcome, and I hope you find today's session useful. Today, the plan, sort of relative to the first session, is to get more practical, is to sort of start helping you think about planning and preparing for your future career in sport. So this is very much around sort of a more practical framework to help you explore and to start planning that future in sport. So with that in mind, we're very lucky and we're very grateful to have Alex and Emma join us for this session from DAZN and SPORTFIVE respectively. They're going to bring some really valuable expert insight into the topics that we'll discuss today, and from a recruitment and employer perspective. So really lucky to have them. Thank you very much for joining us both, and look forward to hearing your thoughts and insights as we go through today. I think interestingly, actually, whilst DAZN and SPORTFIVE, big global players in the sports industry from an employment perspective, that both have offices relatively local to yourselves. So within Leeds and Manchester respectively. So very relevant and hopefully specifically useful for us in today's topics. Before we delve in, quick outline on today's session and the structure. As I mentioned, Alex and Emma, who will introduce themselves shortly to share a bit about their careers, about their journeys, as well as their companies, SPORTFIVE and DAZN, and about their employment processes. Then we'll delve into the future framework, which is kind of the basis of today's session. And this is the aim here is to give you a practical toolkit to sort of start having something you can take away that will give you a practical and a useful frame from which you can start planning and preparing for your future career as you move forward. It be now in the second year, third year, if you're masters or already graduated. I think it will give you a really useful and practical toolkit to move forward with. And then, of course, there'll be a session at the end or a time at the end for Q&As. So please do add any questions that you'd like to ask any of us, particularly obviously Emma and Alex. Add them to the Q&As button at the top somewhere, you'll see, and we will delve into those at the end. So, as promised, let's hand it over to Alex and Emma. But perhaps, Alex, if you're happy to start, if you could just share a little bit about yourself and about your career journey, and introduce SPORTFIVE as a player.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much, Joe, and hello everyone that's joined the call. So I'm Alex McKnight. I'm HR business partner at SPORTFIVE. I'll tell you a little bit about me and then I'll go into SPORTFIVE, which I'm sure you'll be much more interested. So we'll get me out of the way first. I'm from Chester, so not too far away from Leeds. I went to Manchester University. I studied English literature and graduated a very, very long time ago now, nearly 11 years ago. It doesn't feel like it's been that long. After I graduated, I was very fortunate to secure a graduate scheme with Aldi. So I was on their area manager graduate scheme, which involved a lot of time on the tills and a lot of stocking shelves and learning all about the behind the scenes of that operation, which was really interesting. I then kind of moved into a couple of different companies, mainly focused within e-commerce and FMCG. So you can see Morrison's logo on there as well. Spent a bit of time working there. And then 3 years ago, I joined SPORTFIVE. So I had no prior experience in the sport industry, but couldn't have been a more positive move for me. I'm so glad that I now work in this industry, and it's brilliant that you're obviously all interested in securing an opportunity in sport as well. But hopefully kind of seeing my career path there reassures you all a little bit that you don't have to have worked in the sport industry since you were a toddler. You know, you will be able to get a career in sport. There are lots of opportunities. It's just about how you go about it. Outside of work, I've got a lovely little dog called Charlie. I like to look after my health and wellness, and try and travel as much as I can as well. So that's me, but we'll go on to the more interesting topic of SPORTFIVE. So if you don't mind going to the next slide, Joe. In a second, we're going to play you, hopefully, a video that will explain a little bit more about kind of who we are and what we do. Most of you on the call are probably sat there thinking, who? I've never heard of this company before. That was exactly me before I got this position. I'd never heard of SPORTFIVE. We are essentially a sport marketing agency. So the easiest way to think of us is that we are the middle people. So we sit in the middle of brands, any brand in the world, Adidas, Nike, airline, a car company, any brand, and then rights holders. So football clubs, stadiums, FL clubs, golf teams, anything you can think of. And we broker deals between the two. So we will secure sports sponsorships and partnerships for brands and rights holders. But we'll play you this video now, and it'll hopefully give you a bit more of a flavour for what life is like at SPORTFIVE.
Your future starts now.
At SPORTFIVE, we're all about harnessing the incredible emotional power of sports
To create and drive truly valuable partnerships. Partnerships that deliver commercially outstanding full-service solutions and long-term value for every stakeholder.
by leveraging the wealth of experience and innovative spirit of a global team.
Our strategic insight and creative magic can unite brands, rights holders, media platforms, and fans.
A laser focus on the customer, coupled with vast data intelligence,
Means together we can achieve our ongoing goal of being the most progressive and respected partner in sports.
with 1,200 local experts across 15 countries all over the world. Our partnerships cover major sports and esports brands, featuring some of the biggest names in the game.
And this is your opportunity to join us for our most exciting chapter yet.
As well as competitive compensation and great benefits as part of the SPORTFIVE family,
You'll get to experience our uniquely rewarding culture firsthand.
enjoying regular team events and activities from within a supportive and open environment that promotes self-development and champions diversity.
Thank you for considering SPORTFIVE and for taking your career to the next level with us.
Ready to join our team?
We can't wait to hear from you.
Okay, so hopefully that gives you a bit more of an idea for kind of who we are and what we do. If you don't mind just skipping to the next slide, please, Joe. In the video, it mentioned that we're a global business, and you can see here all of the different countries that we're located in. In the UK, we've got 2 offices, so we've got a small office in London, but our main UK hub is in Altrincham. If you've not heard of Altrincham, it's a small town just outside of Manchester. So we're really, really lucky to have such a huge sports hub in the Northwest, which we're a part of. So for those of you that maybe want to stay relatively local to Leeds and stay in the Northwest, there's so many opportunities within sport in the Northwest, which is really great. And then just the final slide from me is just to give you a bit of an insight into some of our early careers opportunities. So I've taken some screen grabs from the LinkedIn pages of some of our recent interns, just to give you a bit of an idea of the sort of things that they get involved in. So you can see on some of those pictures, there's a picture with the New York Jets. So that's one of our key accounts. That's something that our interns work on. FC24, one of our biggest accounts that we have is with EA Sports, and we do a lot for the FC game every year. We've got a partnership with a company called Xylem that have a partnership with Manchester City. So you can see there our interns get involved in loads of really cool stuff, loads of great opportunities. And hopefully at the end I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about when the next internship opportunities will be coming up. But that's everything from me for now.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Alex. Very interesting, very exciting. I think and for sure everybody wanting to understand or know more about graduate opportunities, etc. at SPORTFIVE. So I think, as we know, we'll delve into a lot more insight and your perspectives as we go through. But at the moment, Alex, Emma, over to you.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Alex, for a great intro. You may be familiar with DAZN, you may not, so I'll go into a little bit of an intro of who we are and what we do. Quick snapshot on me personally. So I've been here at DAZN for 8 years. I started off kind of recruiting and supporting the business in hiring across a few key areas, and then very quickly the business grew like crazy internationally and also in the UK. So my role has then in turn sort of progressed across various levels of talent acquisition, the people function, and supporting the business globally. So my role at the moment, so I lead our international hiring globally, so really looking at how we scale really high performing teams across our different markets in a very fast paced and very dynamic business. So my career sort of progressed around, lots of different areas when I first graduated uni and didn't really know what I was doing. So I trialed out things in like admin, retail, customer service, and then kind of fell into this area just really by chance. I've always loved sport, so I did a lot of sport growing up and then through university. So that kind of natural connection, I guess, brought me to DAZN. And a bit like Alex, I hadn't necessarily worked in sports, but I always had a passion for it. It was always kind of on my radar as something I wanted to work in. And it, I was lucky that this door opened up. So again, it's definitely not a be all and end all. If you have experience already in sport, those opportunities can become available. And we'll definitely give you some tips on how you can look for those. On a personal level, really strong advocate for really supporting people in those early career steps, because I know firsthand how tough it is. So really would love to see what we can do to support you guys in that journey and how you navigate, what can be quite a complex and kind of scary space sometimes. So next slide, please, Joe. So onto DAZN and who we are. There should be a video here which might be useful to bring things to life a little bit. But before we go on to that, just to give you a quick overview, we are a global sports streaming and media business. So started off by sort of streaming sports in certain regions where we could broadcast rights to customers. And then that quickly grew to a multinational company. So we have sort of 2,400 plus employees now across many different countries. And we're now tapping into all sorts of other areas of sports media and the full kind of ecosystem of sports to bring DAZN to fans worldwide. So we're all about kind of making things happen quickly, being different, driving innovation, really disrupting the industry. And then our business really reflects that. So Joe, over to the video, because that might help bring it to life a little bit for the team.
There are over 3 billion passionate sports fans around the world. As technology advances, expectations evolve. Consumers now look for a more interactive, sociable, and accessible viewing experience. Alongside watching live events, today's fans communicate with friends and communities, buy merchandise and tickets, play games and bet. In the process, they spend over $500 billion each year across multiple accounts, apps, and devices. DAZN is reshaping the way the world watches sport by merging experiences, removing friction, and unifying a fragmented sports entertainment market. Migrating the viewer from linear channels to a digital platform increases engagement by enabling DAZN to deliver more relevant and personalized content and integrate additional products and experiences. With DAZN's direct-to-consumer service, fans watch their favorite sports and discover even more. They view analysis and highlights, share experiences, and transact across an array of products, from integrated betting and gaming to e-commerce and ticketing, all in one app with a single account at home and on the move. DAZN is available on any device: mobile phones, smart TVs, games consoles, and set-top boxes. As the largest sports broadcaster in Europe, DAZN has relationships with every major league and rights holder in the world and is fast becoming their partner of choice. Partnering with DAZN gives them immediate access to over 200 markets and the ability to reach new and existing audiences anywhere on any device. It enables leagues to access new revenue streams and diversify their business model. It ensures they evolve with consumer expectations and remain relevant. Traditional customers continue to get a high-quality, lean-back experience, while younger demographics can experience something new, lean-forward, dynamic, fun, and interactive. DAZN is the only business with a single-minded focus on driving greater fan engagement. We are growing our footprint by adding more sports, more markets, more products, and more fun. DAZN is the ultimate destination platform for fans, leagues, and the future of sport. This is DAZN. DAZN is sport, and the world is watching.
So hopefully that helps kind of give you a bit more insight into just how complex our business is, and then therefore what that means for our people and the types of roles that we need to hire people for to deliver all of that. So hopefully that's a helpful insight. Next, please, Joe. I won't show this video now because just conscious of time, but I did want to just highlight that, like Alex mentioned, we do have a big hub in Leeds, which is very much a kind of broadcasting and technical hub for us. So that's a really great place to look out for any opportunities, whether it's actual vacancies or experience work, or just kind of events that we're hosting. We quite often promote. So as a follow-up, we'll definitely look to share some more information with you on the local office and what's going on.
Thank you, Emma. Very insightful and very interesting. Yeah, certainly DAZN, as you can see, as with SPORTFIVE, are both at the very cutting edge of sport, as well as recruiting and a very broad breadth of talent within those organisations. One question for you both as we sort of wrap up this little introduction section. I mean, how has graduate recruitment changed in recent years from your perspectives? I mean, is it harder now, do you feel, than it was in previous times or previous years? Alex, perhaps I could start with you.
Yeah, I think it's a really tricky question to answer. I think on the one hand, there are probably more opportunities than ever. I think employers more than ever are seeing just how much value graduates can bring to a business. But I also think graduates are becoming more and more aware that there are so many amazing opportunities within sport, and that naturally makes every process a lot more competitive. We've definitely noticed over the past 5 years, every single year, the number of applications for our internships is increased consistently year after year. So it's definitely become more competitive. But that's why it's so important to do what you can as a candidate to stand out. And I definitely want to reassure people on the call that that's easier than you probably think. And things as simple as a really strong CV, a well-written cover letter, they're the key things that will help you to stand out from a crowd. So yeah, I think it probably is harder, but I think there are also more opportunities.
It's a competitive Emma, from your perspective?
Yeah, I think alongside kind of the industry being more competitive, I think also businesses are competing more with each other to kind of secure that sort of top spot in the industry. So I think as a result of that, companies are a lot more intentional with their hiring. So what they're looking for is roles that they can bring into the business that can really definitely contribute to their business strategy, their revenue, all of this kind of stuff. So I think that means that quite often you might see roles now that are a little bit more specific or specialized than they maybe were sort of previously, because they're linked to, a lot more intentional business objectives. So I think as part of this, we'll hopefully give you guys some insights into how to really kind of understand sort of the direction of what you're applying to, and sort of what the roles kind of mean and stuff like that to help you, because I think that could be quite tricky to navigate nowadays.
Absolutely. Well, with that segue. Let's move on to the next section. And this, as I mentioned, the sort of the future framework, as we've termed it. And as I mentioned, ultimately just a simple framework, sort of 6 steps or 6 themes within this for us to explore, and what we sort of see as valuable key stages to helping sort of successfully plan for a career in brackets in sport. I think is relevant to any sector or industry, but I think obviously we're discussing sport today, and we've got the unique opportunity to have the insider knowledge of Alex and Emma to bring that to life. So let's delve in and get Alex and Emma's insight on each of these. The first theme of this framework is focus, is getting clear on your realistic career path and the sort of the importance of this. And I think this is obviously a kind of first step perhaps in this career planning journey, hence the first, but also it's, we mentioned earlier the competitive nature of sport, but obviously it's increasingly broad as well. And I think that the passion for sport that was often, in the past, the hallmark of the start of wanting to build a career in sport is no longer enough. So I think, Alex, Emma, I mean, how important is it today that candidates have a clear, or at least they show a direction in the way that they're thinking for their career planning, and what does actually clarity look like from an employer perspective? Perhaps Emma, maybe I start with you.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one because obviously when you're early in your career, you don't necessarily know what you want to do long term, and I think that's okay. But I think where to strike that balance is to really kind of think about where you want to be and where you want to start, and that could necessarily lead to other things. But I think it's important to narrow down a good starting place that matches, your interests, what you're sort of naturally good at, and how that could maybe evolve into a broader career over time. I think some of the sort of soft skills that are really important to think about is how you can maybe sort of fit into the type of environment that you're applying for. So at DAZN, for example, we work at 1 million miles an hour, and it's a growing big international business. So I think if you can narrow down sort of where your skills might complement that, things like how you can work in a high-paced, demanding environment, how you can handle some of these kind of constant changing pressures and add that value is really important. And then focusing kind of your entry point. So, you might be looking for a career in sport, but what particular area of sport do you think you'd be best at, given your background and your skills? So trying to narrow it down in that way can be really helpful to make you really stand out in one specific area rather than just kind of more broadly.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. Alex, from your side, is there some thoughts on this topic?
I completely echo everything that Emma's said, and I agree. It's a really fine balance here. On the one hand, we've had kind of early careers candidates that will come to interview and they'll say, I just want to work in sport, don't know what I want to do. Probably a little bit too far on one end of the spectrum, but equally, we don't expect you to say, I want to work in sport, I want this exact job, I want to be in this exact area, because that's just not realistic. Exactly like Emma said, at the stage that you're all at, you're not going to necessarily have a really firm idea of what you want to do for the rest of your life. And also, let's be realistic, and don't want to bring the mood down, but you're all probably going to be working for 40, 45, 50 years. That's a lot of time, and you might change career several times during that time. You'll work at several different companies. That's okay. That's the reality of life and working life nowadays. But if you have a rough idea of where you want to start, that's great. And just being comfortable that just because you're starting there doesn't mean that you're wedding yourself to that particular company or that particular area of a business for the rest of your career. It's actually really exciting that you can swap and change things as you move throughout your career.
Absolutely, sound advice. I mean, is there any sort of specific step you think can be taken to help sort of clarify that starting place? If you're not sure, if you sort of different areas interest you, or you're not quite sure about how to find that specific space, is there a way of narrowing that down from your views?
From my side, I think you can take a lot from what you're studying at the moment. I think where we're sort of looking at graduate or entry level applications, we're not necessarily looking for a huge amount of work experience all the time. It is more about some of those other skills that people have developed, and your university or your studies can be a great place to start. So you might have done, as part of your degree program, you know, certain projects you've had to manage, or you might have had to look at analytics or any areas like this. So that could be a really helpful insight for you to start thinking about what you like and how you could then apply that into, you know, a working environment. If you then couple that with any kind of work experience you are able to gather, whether it's even just small stuff like volunteering, working sort of with your university on any kind of work you can do to build a little bit of kind of work experience, you know, those two things coupled together can really help sort of stand out, but also give you maybe a little bit of direction as to what your interests are and how that would then complement your kind of working world.
Sort of building that sort of that thread or that narrative that sort of all joins up at the right. Okay, Alex, anything from you on that point?
Yeah, I think just to kind of close that point, it's thinking about what brings you joy as well, and what sort of working environment is going to get the best out of you. You know, we've got people in their early career that are designers, or they might be data analysts. Now, that means you're going to be sat at your desk for most of the day, every single day. Now, to some people, that's amazing. That's exactly what gets the best out of them. Whereas for other people, that's their worst nightmare. So the reverse to that is we've got people who will be very heavily involved in event planning and event activation. They are on their feet all day, every day. They are out and about meeting clients and partners. But for those data analysts that might be at their desks the majority of the time, the event side of thing is their worst nightmare. So it's thinking about, like Emma said, what are my skills, but also what type of environment gets the best out of me, and where do I really thrive?
Yeah, thank you. So the second theme, readiness, building evidence, not just potential. I think this highlights how important is practical experience in sort of career planning and career growth. And I think obviously both of you hiring graduates, and would be interesting to see what's your view on how important work experience is. I think, Emma, you touched on it. You know, it's not always the foundation at this level, but also what does actually good experience look like from your perspective, in terms of, you know, there's a wide range in where people can build that experience. But so Alex, perhaps I could kick off with you on that topic.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, again, a difficult question to answer, because I don't want people on the call to think that the be all and end all to getting a career in sport is having had an amazing internship throughout uni, or spending all of their summers doing work experience within sport. Yes, it's amazing if you have done some of those things, but it's also not essential. And, you know, everyone has their own personal circumstances. Great if you've done an internship or had experience, but equally as great if you've been self-funding your degree, and you've had to work at the local corner shop or the local Nando's throughout your degree just to be able to do your degree and to be able to pay for living in halls or wherever it is. Or it's equally as impressive if you have caring responsibilities at home and that's where your spare time has gone. I think the important thing is, show us that as part of your application. Your application is about selling yourself. So whether it's selling the practical experience you've had, or letting us into your personal circumstances and the transferable skills that you've learned by doing those things, that's what you want to get across to an employer. So don't panic if you've been sending out emails to sports organisations here, there and everywhere asking for work experience and you've not been able to get it, because employers want to be able to get to know you through your application and what skills you're going to bring to the organisation.
Absolutely. Thank you. Emma, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would definitely echo that. Like, I know it's really difficult sometimes to just break the doors down in some of these bigger or even more corporate companies, and it can be quite intimidating, and it can feel quite disheartening to send all these emails or applications and not sort of get anywhere. So I think echoing Alex, I think experience of any kind is great, and it doesn't have to be at an elite level. It could really be anything where you've had to apply yourself in a sort of a real life environment. I think that's what we're looking for in these kind of early careers, is taking any kind of experience that's been consistent, and where you've had to sort of take ownership over something, been exposed to kind of real life pressures, whether that's deadlines or dealing with difficult people, because that's all stuff that's going to mirror then a working environment and is going to be really, really relevant and beneficial. And I think it's seeing how people can sort of keep using that experience and reflecting on it and keep kind of developing. So it's that journey really that I think is really important. And even university itself is a great example, because you're under extreme amount of pressure and deadlines and often have to work in projects as a group. And that's all really valuable stuff that you can then leverage in an application or in an interview. So I think about maybe not just from a job and a company perspective in terms of experience, think about real life, and what you could take from that to apply as well.
Yeah, no, very, very helpful. Yeah, having that wider perspective on it, I think, is very valuable mindset to have. Yeah. Great. Number 3, in the interest of time, I'm conscious we're going to be slowly increasing our pace to get through them. But number 3, signal. This is around making your profile work for you. Obviously, CVs, LinkedIn, other channels that you may use across social and otherwise. So the word of personal branding is obviously a key term these days. But Alex, Emma, from your perspective, what are the key things that immediately make a CV or a LinkedIn profile stand out from you in this sort of early careers space? I think there's a lot of advice and there's a lot of ways of how to craft the perfect LinkedIn profile, or how to make your CV distinct. But yeah, from the insider's perspective, what makes things stand out for you? Sorry, Alex.
Yeah, happy.
Emma, please.
Happy to start, because I'm deep in a lot of CV reviewing at the moment, so it's very topical. Honestly, I think it's, as we said at the beginning, it's a very competitive market these days. So anything that you can do to sort of make it just easy for recruitment teams or hiring managers to really get a good sense of you and what you're bringing to the role. So make it kind of easy, on the eye. Make it specific where possible. I know it's time consuming to go and tailor your CV to every role you're applying to, but that little bit of extra time really does genuinely make the difference. So try and think about how you can maybe have a few different versions of your CV that you could then use for different roles, or how you can do a quick kind of tailor to what you're applying to, because that definitely does make a difference. And again, just think more broadly about how you can showcase experience that's really valuable, that might not necessarily just be your degree and any work experience. Think outside the box as well and what you could highlight there.
And do you see like tailoring a CV to specific job vacancies? Obviously making it specific and make it tailored. Does that all stand out to you from when reviewing CVs?
Yeah, it definitely does. And listen, like obviously realistically, you can't put a huge essay together for every role you're applying to, but as much as you can do to make it specific, then yeah, absolutely, it does make a difference.
Alex, over to you.
Yeah, it's always my kind of number one piece of advice as well, is tailor it. If you see a job out there and you think, wow, I would absolutely love to have that job, invest the time in it, because I cannot tell you how much of a difference it makes when you do tailor an application and when you do a cover letter as well. Some people think they're quite archaic. We really value them. I mean, even today we've been recruiting for a really senior account director level role. We've rejected profiles because they've not submitted cover letters when we've got a selection that have. So putting in that extra time and effort goes an awful long way. And yeah, like Joe said, it doesn't have to be War and Peace. I mean, the guidance I normally give our early careers students is when you're thinking about a cover letter, 3 paragraphs is all you need. The first paragraph is why this company. So if you're applying for a job at SPORTFIVE, tell me why you want to work at SPORTFIVE. I want to read that paragraph and I want to know you've been on our website, you know what we do, and you're convincing me that you really want to work for our company. The second paragraph is why this job. So tell me why this job is for you. What's interesting you about it? When you read the job description, what made you feel excited about potentially doing that job? And then the third paragraph is why me? So out of all those other candidates, why should we choose you? And that's the paragraph where you summarize your experience. You tell us a bit about who you are as a person, what your unique selling point is. And that's the makings of a good cover letter. Why the company, why the role, and why you?
Very helpful practical advice. I think that will be valuably taken home. Thank you. Let's go on with access, getting close to opportunities. So I think this brings into focus the sort of view of the role of connections and networking and conversations. You know, that more soft play, if you will. And I guess, I mean, Alex, from your side, how can students perhaps approach these methods? You know, and obviously the networking is an age-old game and obviously always viewed as an important process in career progression. But how can sort of graduates really effectively, use these approaches to get ahead or to get opportunities, get in front of employers, perhaps?
Yeah, I think it's really, really important. You know, your LinkedIn profile is more important than ever. So if you've not got one, I would definitely recommend setting one up. I definitely notice a pattern with the graduates or placement year students that we offer roles to. When I look at their LinkedIns, they're the ones that have been posting throughout their degree. So if they finish an assignment, maybe they'll do a little bit of a summary. If they play a sport and their team's won a competition, they'll do a post with a picture. It's always very professional, it's always very engaging, but they understand the importance of building up their personal brand. And that's exactly what your LinkedIn profile does. So have a professional photo on there, not just one from you on holiday. Connect with companies that you're interested in. So if you know you want to work in sport, start researching which companies am I interested in, follow their LinkedIn pages, and then maybe connect with some people within those companies. And if you start then liking content, maybe leaving some comments and engaging with things, then that starts getting your name out there. I would say there's definitely a fine line with it though. Don't go too far the other way and make it a little bit over the top. Post an appropriate amount, like and comment an appropriate amount. Don't just send a message to every single person that works at a company. But it might just be one message to one person and you've been on their profile, you've looked at their career trajectory and it's something that you admire and would like to achieve yourself. Absolutely send that person a message and ask if they've got any advice for you. But just be mindful of the right level of communication and networking versus overdoing it as well.
Yeah, very helpful. And do you feel, I mean, you talked there of sort of digital channels in terms of networking, physical spaces, events, opportunities to meet people, how the role there, I mean, how do you feel that's a valuable and important thing in today's market?
Massively important. And it's ironic, really, isn't it? Because we live in a digital age now and AI has become such a huge thing. But I think, if anything, it's really put a spotlight on the value of in-person communication and in-person connections. And I do think that is something that will really set you apart from other people. So absolutely, if there are opportunities to go to events, attend them, put yourself out there, go and introduce yourself to people. And there's definitely things you can do to set yourself apart. I mean, I think pretty much everyone sat with their camera off now. If there was one person with their camera on, you're instantly going to stand out amongst everyone else and leave a lasting impression. So that would definitely be a piece of advice from me. I know it feels uncomfortable. I know it feels a little bit awkward, especially if everyone else has got their camera off, but that's the sort of thing that employers will notice because it shows confidence, it shows you're a good communicator. So constantly be thinking about the type of skills that employers want to see, because they're the things that are going to stand out.
Oh, wise words, thank you. Emma, from your perspective, to add, I don't know if there's other areas to add to that, but also, what's the sort of effective way that, or to follow on from that? What are the effective ways that candidates can sort of get onto your radar, for example? I mean, what methods would work?
Yeah, well, I think as Alex said, LinkedIn is obviously our main kind of sort of business focused social media platform. So I think that, of course, is a natural place to start. And all of Alex's advice there was really, really spot on of how to strike that balance if you're using a tool like that. I think you can look at other social channels as well. I mean, companies are now, in this day and age, they're forced to have an online presence. So a lot of companies will be on other social platforms. They'll be on TikTok, they'll be on X and all of those. So I think do kind of follow what companies are doing just for general company updates, which can be really useful to help you understand the businesses and what's going on. Outside of that, I think, kind of events like this that you're doing and taking part in are brilliant because you get a really good insider view as to how businesses operate. So that's really, really useful experience. And you'll find that a lot of businesses like at DAZN, for example, we do a lot of events and, they are like in Leeds, for example, we've hosted Manchester University recently came to our office, a couple of their students to do a talk and a guided tour of some of our facilities. So, having some of those, that exposure to some businesses and following their company updates on LinkedIn, using your networks at the university for any other companies that they're in touch with, that can be really, really valuable as well to get that insider view as to what's going on.
And I think to that point as well, you need to have your finger on the pulse, don't you, in terms of knowing what's going on, knowing where you could be, knowing how you could make an impact or meet the people you want to who could help you on your journey. So I think
100%, and it can be like Alex said, put yourself out there because you never know how one conversation or one event might impact you. So be open-minded, kind of if you have an opportunity to attend some talks or webinars or whatever, try and do as much as you can just to see kind of where it leads, would be my advice as well.
Great advice indeed. Yeah, thank you. Cool. Well, the fifth and final theme in this framework is win, and perhaps the sort of core component of the framework is converting opportunity. I think there's obviously been talk around CVs, there's been talk about networking, etc., and practical experience in terms of the importance of those components, and they all obviously have they hold weight in this journey. But I think there is obviously a pertinent point where employers also value the mindset and the attitude of candidates, and I think it would be interesting to understand from your perspectives, when interviewing graduates who have similar perhaps degrees or relatively similar experience, etc., what separates those two people? And let's say the sort of they have a good profile, they tick all the boxes in terms of from a CV perspective. What separates? If perhaps Emma, could I start with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when it's difficult for us as well as employers, right? Because it can be a really difficult decision when people's profiles are very similar sort of on paper. I think when that's the case, it definitely does come down more to those kind of softer skills or the way that you communicate, the way that you kind of present yourself, and some of the examples you're able to give. And some of that comes down just to confidence in the interview. So definitely getting that practice, and even if it's awkward, doing kind of practice sessions of interview questions on really how to kind of get the most out of the answers you're giving is really, really useful, because I think that sometimes is the differentiator. If someone gave slightly stronger examples of projects they've delivered at university and then links as to why that's relevant for those skills in that role, that might be the deciding factor of why we think that person is better suited. So I would definitely recommend practice how you're answering those questions, and give as many strong, genuine kind of examples as possible, and then how you can really demonstrate your true kind of interest and passion, and how that will kind of support you in that role. That can be a really strong factor as well.
Helpful, thank you. And Alex.
Yeah, I think to kind of add to that, when you're being invited to interview for a job, don't underestimate some of the small things and how much of an impact they can have. And I always use the example of the first person you're likely to meet in an office is the receptionist or the office manager. That's probably the most important person to impress, because they're the one that you're going to give a first impression to. So our lovely office manager, Colette, she's the one that greets our candidates. Engage in a bit of conversation with whoever that person is. From the moment you walk into that office, be the very best you that you want to present to an employer. And then the other tip I always give is be prepared to ask questions at the end of an interview, because sometimes if a candidate is neck and neck, that's the difference between someone being offered a job, is someone who at the end of an interview asks a couple of really simple questions. And that might be something like, I'd love to hear from the interviewers, what do you love the most about working for this company? Or, what does success look like for you in this role? Just go prepared with a couple of things to ask. And the other thing that always makes a candidate stand out to me is the follow-up after an interview. And it's a really interesting one, because across every role, every single level, it doesn't matter if we're talking about a graduate or a director or a vice president, I would suspect or predict it's less than 5% of candidates actually send a follow-up afterwards. And it can be a really, really powerful tool to use. So whoever's interviewed you, or the HR contact who set up that interview, the next morning, the next afternoon, whenever, just send a couple of lines. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed the interview. Looking forward to hearing back from the team. It's as simple as that, and it will leave a lasting impression in their minds.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that it's almost going that extra step sort of is a thread as well that goes through a lot of these things. It's either, making the connection to the, on LinkedIn, or it's attending that event, or it's sending that last email that, and those things that others potentially don't do is what makes you stand out, or makes you, and not knowing how that might convert is other perhaps the little wins, as it were. Valuable stuff. Thank you very much, both. I think there's hugely valuable, practical, and insightful, information or insight to share. And I think a lot to take in with all of those themes and the learnings from those. So do not worry, that will be shared this webinar, so you will obviously have access to be able to review and understand it in more detail. I think just to recap, obviously we won't go through this now, but focus, readiness, single, access, and win were the 5 steps. And I think it's important to mention that sort of research and discovery phase, which you could consider is the 6th element to this, but is also ultimately the sort of glue that wraps around all of these stages. And that I think we mentioned earlier in terms of the need to have your finger on the pulse. And I think you need to be engaged and excited and ready to take opportunities. And with that, that research and discovery phase, I think it is an important thread that goes through each of these themes. On that note, in terms of research and discovery, Alex, perhaps, obviously students today have a huge amount of information at their fingertips. That can be through LinkedIn, other channels, AI, jobs boards, etc. There's a lot of access to channels and information. Like, what sort of are the smart ways you would think are that students can utilize to sort of learn more, know more, sort of understand more, to make sort of smart decisions or to help their career?
Yeah, I think that immediately makes me think of AI and how to use it to your advantage, not your disadvantage. And we've definitely noticed a pattern, especially with our early careers applicants, where cover letters in particular, we can tell are being written by AI, by ChatGPT. And the reason we know that is, for some reason, ChatGPT gives a very inaccurate description of what SPORTFIVE as a company does. And that's the description that we're seeing on cover letters. I use AI every single day in my job. I think it's a brilliant tool, but it's a tool. Write a cover letter yourself and use AI to check your grammar and check your spelling, make sure that your sentences are structured well. But something that's really, really going to set you apart is us being able to see your personality and to see you through the page. You're just not going to get that by using ChatGPT. So yes, we're in this world where we have access to so many different tools and so many different ways to apply for a job. Find the tools that work for you. Don't let it overwhelm you. Pick one or two. But then when it comes to AI, always have in your mind it's an aid, not your creator for cover letters and applications.
Yeah, it's I'm sure. Yeah, the next generation of employees are getting well versed on the do's and don'ts of AI, but certainly absolutely important learnings. Emma, to add to that, sort of the smartest ways students can use tools. And
yeah, I think, yes, Alex's point, AI can be a great tool, but certainly shouldn't sort of take away from your personal, your personality kind of feeding through. And we've seen a rise in sort of AI being used even for interviews, for example, and it's a risky ground because yes, it might make your performance great in an interview, but actually you're not setting yourself up for success if you're giving a false representation of your skills in the interview. So yeah, I would definitely, like Alex said, use it to your advantage, but keep that personal touch at the same time. I think social media, it can be a great tool, as we've discussed. Strike that balance, just be aware that if you are sort of being active on social media when it comes to your job search or connecting with companies, just strike that balance of what you're posting, and make sure that you'd be happy with that being seen by a future employer is really, really important. So those tools, I think, can be kind of risky ground. So play it safe, I would say, on those fronts. Other than that, automation can be a great thing. A lot of tools like LinkedIn and different job boards have automation features you can use that will send you personalized, alerts when new roles come up, so you can kind of be the first to get your application in nice and early. And then similarly, a lot of companies might have automation updates from their websites and stuff like that you can set up for quick insights into what's going on. So I think those are some quick wins as well.
Good stuff. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm conscious of time. We've got a few minutes left, and I wonder if there's any questions from the floor. I haven't had a moment to look into there, but I'm in there now. And Ian, I don't think there were any specific questions, were there? So, but I mean, one I think important sort of topic or question to ask is, I think from and Alex, I think you both mentioned it in terms of students that are interested in SPORTFIVE or DAZN as potential future opportunities or employers. How can they go about sort of exploring that interest?
Yeah, for us, we have a series of different internships that you can do as a sandwich placement or as a graduate as well. Our application window for 2026 will likely open September, October sort of time. We have opportunities in finance, brand solutions, and within our rights holder management team as well. Predominantly quite football focused positions apart from the finance one. If you follow our LinkedIn page, we always post when those application windows go live. So I'd say that's the best place to look for our positions. And then exactly everything we've spoken about in the session, what's going to make that application really strong is writing that tailored CV, writing that tailored cover letter. But you're also more than welcome to reach out directly as well if you want to find out more about those positions. But it's going to be a good couple of months until they go live.
Good to know. Thank you. So it's got a bit of time to prepare, but
yes,
get ready. Emma, for DAZN?
Yes, so we at the moment we don't have a specific intern or graduate program, but watch this space. We do, however, when we do have graduate roles or internships that do come up, we would always advertise them either on the website or LinkedIn. So do keep an eye on what's going on. You can also follow our careers page to sign up to our talent pool. So you can join our kind of internal list to be kind of notified about any opportunities that might come up. We do also from time to time, especially in the Leeds office, we do hire kind of freelancers or people to support us in areas like production or our broadcasting facility. So definitely keep an eye out on sort of company updates there as well. And then same as Alex, I'm very happy to help anyone who wants to reach out to have a point of contact or any advice on if you see anything being advertised or want to kind of know about anything that might be coming up, do feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to give you any insights that I can.
That's very kind, thank you. And I remembered actually there's a link here for that talent pool. So
yeah.
So when we share this deck, obviously the audience will have access to that as well. So very good. I've actually interestingly do have a question here from Sarah, which is very pertinent because with a female panel with us. Is it, as female leaders in sport, did you find there were obstacles entering into the sports world? Very valuable question.
Yeah, I think it's
please.
Yeah, really, really good question and something that's very close to our hearts here. Yeah, there's no getting away from it. The sports industry is predominantly male. You probably see that on your sports course as well. We currently at SPORTFIVE, we've got about a 35%, 65% female to male weighting, which we're really proud of and something that's improved a lot in the last couple of years. This is actually a question that many of our females here ask, and the answer is no, really. If you want to work in sport, it doesn't matter if you're female or male, there are so many opportunities. I think the important thing is what an employer does when you've secured those opportunities to support you as a woman in sport. So, for example, we have a women's network. We do 2-3 events a year. We actually did one last week where we bring all of our women from across the UK business together, and we might get a speaker in. So a couple of months ago, we had a speaker that came in and did a session with us on imposter syndrome, because that's something that really affects women in the sports industry. Last week, the session was all about us connecting with each other and hearing from more senior women in the business so that the entry-level talent could learn more about how they've approached their career. So, and to answer your question, no, I don't think there are obstacles. I think the challenge is how can you be your best self as a female in sport, and that's what your employer can do to support you.
Great to hear those initiatives that also take place to support. Emma, from your...
Yeah, I think definitely echo Alex's point. I think the opportunities are absolutely there for everyone. I think it's sometimes just about breaking down some of those kind of doors or barriers that might seem like they're there because it is quite a male dominated industry. Yeah, certainly at DAZN we do see that quite a high proportion of our employees are male. But having said that, I think that's where the power of kind of community and networking really comes into play, where if you do have other kind of female members of the business that you can really look to for support and advice and guidance, it really does help. Like I say, from a personal experience, I came back from maternity leave this year, and it was quite challenging to kind of slot back into the working world, and I definitely leveraged that power of kind of speaking to people and asking for advice with fellow kind of female employees, and that's been really, really helpful for me. So I think that sense of community there can be really, really important.
Thank you. I've got one last question. I feel I should ask it just because there's only one left, and just in time. But quickly, on the subject of AI, is it true employers use AI to filter applications their side? Just a quick one sentence.
Yes, it is true. People are using it in different ways. at DAZN, for example, we have not replaced, you know, the talent acquisition team with kind of AI. We use it, you know, for some levels of automation across the process, but certainly not kind of replacing sort of the full application filter.
Stuff. Alex?
Yeah, we don't at the moment. So we have people that physically look at every single CV and every single cover letter. We want to be able to continue doing that for as long as we can. Whether it stays like that forever, I don't know. But you know, I think that's why it is so important that your CV and cover letter makes you stand out, so that when there are physical humans looking at it like at our place, that you know it's going to show who you are and what you're about.
Absolutely. Perfect, and thank you. Wonderful to have you both. Thank you very much for all of the detail and the depth and the insight that you can provide. It's really, really beneficial to everyone, especially me, not especially me, but I mean, you know, even me. So I think the audience is, you know, really helpful. I have no doubt, and I think very lucky to have you both. Thank you, and I hope it's been good for everyone listening. We will send the deck round to you shortly, but other than that, have a good rest of your day. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.